Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit, and the starry visitor. Benny Bear was settling into his big armchair with a mug of cocoa when Ruby Rabbit burst through the door, eyes wide. "Benny, you have to come outside." Benny set down his mug. "What is it? Another hedgehog stuck in a bush?" Ruby shook her head. "The sky. There's something up there." They stepped into the crisp night. Above the treetops, the stars shimmered brighter than usual, but in one corner of the sky, a cluster of lights danced and swirled like fireflies. "That's not normal," Benny murmured. Ruby's whiskers twitched. "Let's follow them." The chase through the forest. They hurried along the moonlit path, the strange lights weaving ahead of them. Every now and then, one would dart low, almost close enough to touch before zipping away. "It's like they want us to follow," Ruby said. Deeper into the forest they went, until they reached the old clearing with the giant oak in the middle. The lights gathered above it, forming a spiral that glowed like silver dust. Then, in a soft flash, the lights came together and shaped themselves into a small figure. The visitor appears. Hovering above the grass was a tiny fox, no bigger than Ruby's paw, made entirely of stardust. Its fur shimmered, and its eyes were like two bright moons. "Hello," the fox said, its voice like wind through leaves. Ruby's mouth fell open. "It talks." "I've come from the sky paths," the fox continued. "I'm looking for something I lost." Benny crouched down. "What did you lose?" The fox's tail swirled like a comet. "A star crystal. Without it, I can't return to my place in the constellations." The search. Benny and Ruby agreed to help. They searched the clearing first, then the path they'd taken. Ruby spotted something glinting under a fern, but it was just a raindrop. Benny peered into a hollow log and startled an owl. "Not here." Finally, Ruby hopped up onto the oak's lowest branch. "Benny, I see something stuck in the bark." She wriggled it loose, a glowing shard shaped like a teardrop. The stardust fox's eyes lit up. "My crystal!" The farewell. The fox leapt gracefully into the air, the crystal floating back into place at its chest. Its glow brightened, spilling soft light over the clearing. "You've returned my heart," it said warmly. "I will remember you in the stars." The lights began to swirl again, lifting the fox higher until it became a trail of silver dust winding back into the night sky. Benny and Ruby stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Ruby whispered, "Do you think we'll ever see it again?" Benny smiled. "If we look up on clear nights, maybe we already do." They walked home under the sparkling constellations, each step feeling a little lighter, as if some of the fox's stardust had stayed with them. Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit and the Snowbound Squirrel. Snowflakes drifted gently over Pinecone Forest, covering the trees in a thick white blanket. Benny Bear was shoveling a path to his front door when Ruby Rabbit came bounding up, leaving little paw prints behind her. "Benny, the snow's deep in the meadow. Let's go exploring." Benny chuckled. "All right, but bundle up." They set off with scarves, mittens, and a thermos of hot tea. The forest was quiet, except for the crunch of snow beneath their feet. Halfway across the meadow, Ruby stopped. "Do you hear that?" A faint, muffled sound came from a clump of snow-covered bushes. "Help! Is someone there?" Ruby called. "Yes, I'm stuck," came a tiny voice. Benny and Ruby hurried over, brushing snow aside until they found a small tunnel leading into the bush. Inside was Squeaky the squirrel, shivering. "I went to gather acorns," Squeaky explained, "but the snowstorm started and I couldn't get home. Then my tail got tangled in the branches." The rescue. Benny carefully untangled Squeaky's tail while Ruby wrapped her own scarf around him. "You're freezing," Benny said. "Let's get you warmed up." They carried Squeaky to a hollow log nearby, sheltered from the wind. Ruby poured some hot tea into a tiny cup from her satchel. Squeaky sipped it gratefully. I thought I'd have to spend the night out here. We wouldn't let that happen, Ruby said firmly. The journey home. The snow was falling heavier now, making the path hard to see. Benny took the lead, using his big paws to flatten the snow ahead. Ruby stayed close behind, carrying Squeaky in her arms to keep him warm. Every so often the wind blew so hard that they had to stop and huddle together until it passed. Finally they reached Squeaky's tree, but the entrance to his nest was blocked with snow. Benny used his shovel-like paws to clear the way, while Ruby tucked fresh twigs into the nest for extra warmth. What a cozy ending. Once inside, Squeaky curled up in a ball and sighed in relief. You saved me. Benny smiled. That's what friends are for. Ruby added, and next time you want acorns in a snowstorm, call us first. They all laughed, and Squeaky handed them each a roasted acorn from his winter stash as a thank you. That evening, back at Benny's cabin, they sat by the fire sipping more hot tea. Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside it was warm, the kind of warmth that comes from good friends and a rescue well done. Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit and the Springtime Treasure Hunt. The snow had melted, the air was warm, and tiny green shoots were pushing through the soil. Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit were enjoying a sunny morning in the garden when a robin fluttered down with a note tied to its leg. For us? Ruby asked, untying the ribbon. The note read, Dear friends, follow the clues, find the treasure. Signed a well-wisher. Benny raised an eyebrow. A treasure hunt? In spring? Sounds like fun. Clue 1. The first clue was written at the bottom of the note. Where flowers grow tall and bees hum all day, look for the rock shaped like a heart. That's the wildflower meadow, Ruby said at once. They trotted off, passing blooming daffodils and buzzing bees, until they spotted a mossy rock in the perfect shape of a heart. Underneath was the next clue, tucked in a glass jar. Clue 2. Near the old oak where squirrels play, something shiny waits for you today. Benny grinned. That's old Grandfather Oak. Let's go. At the base of the oak, they found a small tin box. Inside was a polished button shaped like a sun, and another note. Clue 3. Beside the stream that sings its song, under the bridge not very long. They hurried to the little wooden bridge by the brook. Ruby crouched down and spotted a ribbon dangling from a jar wedged between the planks. Inside was the final clue. The last clue. Go to the place where friends gather for tea. Your treasure is waiting beneath the old seat. Ruby gasped. That's the picnic bench in the clearing. They ran the last stretch, laughing as they went. The treasure. Under the bench, wrapped in soft cloth, was a basket filled with cookies, fresh strawberries, a pot of honey, and 2 shiny friendship pins shaped like a bear and a rabbit. A note on top read, To Benny and Ruby, the greatest treasure is friendship. Enjoy the treats. From Daisy dear. Benny chuckled. I should have guessed Daisy was behind this. Ruby grinned, fastening her pin to her scarf. Best treasure hunt ever. They sat in the sun sharing cookies and honey, surrounded by the scent of flowers and the gentle hum of bees.